Hey guys, how's it going? Srey here. So today I just want to accompany my solo queue tier list update with this video. And this video is basically to highlight major changes and give you maybe a bit more insight as to why I place certain heroes where. So the major highlights is that there are a lot more tanks. Some heroes were obviously changed significantly. Ragnaros has been added, and Hero League is now strictly solo queues, so you can no longer duo. I've also removed Tier 5, aka Dumpster Tier, and basically just moved those heroes into Tier 4 and some of the Tier 4 heroes into the other tiers. And that's just because I felt like there were too many tiers, splitting them apart. So there's 6 in total with S tier, and I feel like this just brings things in line a little bit more. So obviously there's quite a few changes here, but let's just look at the tier list and go from there. So in tier S, I have Ragnaros, Thrall, Malfurion, Vala, and Diablo. So Diablo shouldn't really be a surprise here. He got a huge buff. He's easily the strongest tank. He's extremely strong and competitive as well. And the reason he's so good is just because he's really, really hard to kill. He got pretty good defensive upgrades. He has resistance now, basically permanent resistance. He got another 20% max health buff, and he has basically 35% perma spell shield. And he also has a ton of viable builds. You can go APOC, Lightning Breath. He's good in pretty much any comp. He's good on any map. He has decent wave clear. He's just a really, really solid tank, and he's definitely a tank that you can carry from. He's also a tank that you can have highest damage in the game with if you go Lightning Breath. So a ton of utility and versatility with Diablo. Vala is still the best range damage in the game as long as you can be supported by your allies. The only thing that's really changed with Vala is that you go Rain of Vengeance now pretty much every game instead of Strafe. At least in my opinion, I think the follow-up and the burst damage is really good in securing kills. It's also really good for interrupting any kind of channeled abilities. Malfurion is still the best support. I don't really think that's a surprise. His CC is really good. He's really easy to play. He has really good sustained healing. His innervate's really good. He has 2 really good ultimates. And he's just really, really solid overall. So even though he's kind of weak to burst comps, you can kind of maybe counter the burst comps with Twilight Dream. Thrall might be a little bit of a surprise. So Thrall got a big upgrade to Earthquake, so it basically does a tiny bit of damage, but that damage allows it to proc his passive. So basically every time Earthquake procs, you're going to get a heal from your passive. So this makes Thrall not. I mean, Earthquake was already good, but it makes Thrall so that he can be in the middle of a fight in Earthquake and he won't die. So you go a little bit of a tankier build now. Of course, all the builds are in this talent guide as well. So you go Earthquake, and it just has so much synergy. It feels like it lasts forever. It's on a 60-second cooldown, and you can combo it with. It's really good with Tychus because they can't move. All Tychus just miniguns them. It's really good with Raynor because you can just Hyperion. It's really good with any kind of like AoE ability. It's good with KT obviously. So it just has a lot of synergy and it counters a lot of comps really hard. So the enemy team has a lot of melee heroes. Earthquake is really good versus that. Ragnaros is the new addition, and he's really good, right? He's really good. I don't know how good he is in competitive. He's probably viable enough to pick him, but he's definitely not nearly as good as he is in Quick Match and Hero League. And I think the big reason that he's really, really strong is because of Lava Wave. Because Lava Wave, not only does it allow you to basically split push a lane, it allows you to counter objectives, it allows you to prevent them from coring because you can just Lava Wave and they get wiped. It prevents them from pushing. It basically just gives you a second life. So if your team gets wiped, and you're just all respawning and they're pushing and they're taking a keep or something, or they're pushing with a boss or objective, you can just lava wave and hey, you're good to go. You can also use Molten Core to prevent a lot of damage during sieges, and it basically makes it impossible for enemy team to fight around that. And not, I mean, that's just talking about those two parts of his kit, his passive and his heroic. But he also had his general kit is just really strong as well. So overall, he's just a really strong hero. In the future, I'd like to see Blizzard not just nerf him to the ground because then he'll never be played competitively. Obviously, a lot of you don't have that problem, but I wouldn't like to see him nerfed too hard. I just think the only issue is Lava Wave because I think his other heroic, Sulfurous Smash, is actually just perfectly fine. And he'd be perfectly balanced if he just had that heroic instead of the other one. Okay, so tier 1, we still have Li Ming near the top. Li Ming is always good. She bursts heroes. You can get resets. She's really good on a lot of objectives. So Battlefield of Eternity. She's good at bursting down things. She's good at poking. She just has really high burst damage poke, which is kind of rare in Heroes of the Storm. and she can reset, so just basically wipe up the whole thing. Zeratul is still really strong. He got a lot of buffs, so basically just shifted a lot of his talents one talent earlier, so he's just really strong early, and he's really strong at all points in the game. Zeratul is probably one of the only heroes I'd have on here that I'd say don't play him until you've got a lot of experience with him. He's really one of those heroes that you're not going to get much value out of unless you've really gotten extensive experience with him. You can go Secret in the Dark, or you can go Wormhole. Both are good. He's just really strong overall. Chen got moved down a bit, and this is because there's just a lot more CC in the game, and because now we have Dahaka more in the meta, and we have Diablo as well. That just reduces the value of tanks in general. So that combined with a lot more CC just makes him a little less viable. Gul'dan got a pretty big increase. This is mostly just because I mean, he's been getting steadily buffed each patch for the most part, and he just seems to work really well with the meta where you have generally at least one support on your team, and you have one or two tanks, so he's really well protected, and he just has such good wave clear, and he's very effective versus, and since his damage is just so high, if you have like a Gul'dan on your team, like if you have a Vol on your team, you'll just be able to outmatch the enemy team's damage. So if like they have like a Falstad and you have a Gul'dan, as like your only DPS on both sides, you're gonna win with Gul'dan. Like you're gonna be a really big advantage because you just have that damage output. Brightwing got nerfed in terms of her global, so it's a little bit longer cooldown, but she's just as good as ever. Dahaka got significant buffs in many parts of his kit. Now he has adaptation to be an actually viable heroic ability. So that makes him a lot tankier, and he also got a bunch of other quality of life changes. So he's just better in general. A really good part of his kit is that he's able to split soak, and he gets like the best wave clear in the game at level 1, and he's able to split push with that wave clear. So that's why he's so effective. Zarya got a little bit of a quality of life change, so her Q can pop out a little bit faster and easier. So that I mean, that's not too impactful. I don't think I would change her too much just because of that. She hasn't really moved at all. Still, if you're gonna pick Zarya, you want to make sure that you have something on your team that you can shield reliably. If you're not getting shield energy from Zarya, you're not gonna be doing anything on her. So you want to make sure that if you're playing Zarya, you're able to get energy. If you're not, then you don't want to play her. Tychus is better because there's a lot more tanks, so more tanks in the meta means Tychus is better because he's the best anti-tank since he does percentage damage. Falstad's still good because of globals and there's more global maps now. So there was a time they removed Garden in the rotation before, and they had removed Blackhearts, and Warhead Junction was out. But with all those three maps back in the pool, Falstad's better because there's more globals. Alarak saw a little bit of a decrease because there's so many tanks, and Alarak isn't as good versus tanks. Rhaegar got significant buffs, so Rhaegar might not have the highest win rate as many other heroes, but this is mostly just because people aren't using Rhaegar properly. Rhaegar is the best jungler he's the best support jungler in the game. So you can almost single-handedly carry a game or at least do a large portion of it just by getting camps on the map. So on the Towers of Doom, if you just do camps all game, so he got a very sizable attack damage increase, and that makes him do camps faster. And he was never bad in the first place. Samuro has seen consistent nerfs, so it's no surprise that he's a little bit lower. Mirrodin's lower because the other tanks are better, so Diablo, Dahaka are better, that makes Mirrodin worse. Morales has never been bad, but Morales is now a little bit better because there's less coordination in Hero League because it's strictly solo queue. ETC hasn't really changed. Kerrigan is a bit better because there's a lot more burst and a lot more CC. So like we have like Diablo to go in with Kerrigan, we have Vala, Rag, we have Thrall, um, Li Ming's Zeratul. So there's a lot of heroes you can pair Kerrigan with now for good dive. Tyrael, even though he got a nerf to Sanctification, I think he's just as good. You want to use him in generally double tank comps, but that's not the only thing you want to use him in. Jaina is better now because I think I underrated Jaina before, and I think she's better versus all of these kind of tanky compositions where you can get really good AoE damage because if they have more backline, they're not going to be stacked together as hard. But when they have a lot more melee, then it's easier for them to clump and you to get more damage. Johanna hasn't changed. Chromie got significant buffs, so now you can get your talents one level earlier. So it was already one level earlier. Now it's 2 levels earlier in total. And she got a buff at level 1, so she has another viable talent option at level 1. And I think she's really just hitting OP right now. Obviously, you have to hit your abilities for Chromie to be effective, but if you can hit every ability, if you can always hit Chromie's ability, she's easily the best hero in the game. Her damage numbers are absolutely insane. Like go into try mode and compare her damage numbers. Like even at level 1 compared to like heroes at level 20, they're just absolutely insanely high. You can almost one shot like Vala with a Chromie if you hit just Q and W. Karazim is still really good. He got a little bit nerfs to his damage build, but I still think he's just as good. If you're playing Karazim, you don't really want to go to support build. You're better off just going like Rhaegar, Malf, or Brightwing or something if you want to support. Karazim's more there as a double support option, or a hybrid or a DPS kind of support. Sergeant Hammer is better for the same reason Morales is better, because it's strictly solo queue now. Sylvanas got a little bit toned down because tanks are more in the meta, so that means that Sylvanas is a little bit less relevant because her damage isn't effective versus tanks. So if you're against like a Dahaka, a Zarya, Diablo, Chen, like her damage is almost nothing versus those heroes. She's better the squishier the enemy team is, because she has very spread AoE damage, very low targeted damage. Lost Vikings haven't changed. Nazebo, um, I think you just haven't seen him for a while. I don't think he was ever a bad hero. I think he got unnecessary nerfs after he got changed. So they nerfed Blizzard nerfed Dead Rush and some other talents, and that made me a little bit sad, because I actually thought he was in a really good spot. I think he's okay right now, um, but not much more than that. Tracer has seen a lot more play, and this is probably just because people have realized that she's good, but she's only good if you have the certain comps. So usually you never want to run her in solo healer. You always want to run her in double healer. So like Tracer Tass is just really obnoxious. Tracer Abathur, things like that. KT saw a little bit of a decrease just because there's a lot more dive as well. So you got like Dahaka, you got Diablo, you got Ragnaros, you got Thrall, and they can all dive KT really easily. And he has zero mobility. A little bit different than Jaina, because Jaina can slow heroes and she can burst them. Um, Okay, so Tyrande saw a little bit of an increase, and I just think that she's good in the double support kind of meta. She just has good burst damage, and I think that like Starfall is also just really, really strong versus a lot of melee as well. Kind of the same reason that Earthquake is. Raynor again better versus double melee or double tank or lots of tanks. He's kind of like a shitty version of Tychus in my opinion. Ariel, I marked down a bit. I think that Ariel, you really need to be able to rely on your teammates to give you energy, and I just in Hero League that can be really frustrating sometimes, and you might not have the right comp. I just think that Ariel is really dependent on if you really trust your allies to be able to give you energy, and if you have those heroes that can give you energy. Zul saw a pretty notable decrease from tier 1 to tier 3, and this is mostly because, I mean, look at the heroes that are in tier 1 right now. A lot of those heroes have really good wave clear. Um, and especially in tier S as well. So there's a lot of good wave clear, and Zul was pretty much picked because he just wave cleared so hard, and he saw consistent nerfs a while back, but now I think they're just starting to catch up with him. Artanis saw some tier increases, and this is because he got buffs. So Artanis buffs are nice, but I think they nerfed his shield a little bit too hard. There's also a bug where his shield doesn't proc properly, so that also affects him. Right now, he's basically just a playmaker, so all you do is you Q, and then you want to land your prism so you can swap places and get a pick. That's pretty much all he's good for right now. I would like to see him just be a little bit tankier in the future, and that'll probably make him at least tier 2. Nubrock saw a little bit of health increases. That's nice. Varian is just still not good. I never thought he was good. Never liked him. I thought his tank build was pretty good, but I feel like there's just better tanks now, especially with Diablo and Dahaka up there. I just wouldn't pick Varian. Lunara saw a notable decrease from tier 1. Basically, Gul'dan does what she does better. She does, high sustained AoE damage, and Gul'dan just outputs more damage. I feel like there's just better DPS options. Greymane, just not in the meta at all right now. I don't know if he needs buffs or whatnot, but he feels pretty weak. Zagara, just, again, not relevant at all. Lili, can be good situationally if you versus a Tracer, if you versus an Illidan, if you versus a team that's really relying on auto attacks, maybe even like Thrall, Vala, Tychus. Um, but I don't think that generally, if you just wanted solo support, there's other options. Illidan, Sonya, Leoric, just not relevant again. And pretty much all these other heroes are just not relevant. I think Rexar can see um, Rexar, I will admit, is good on Brax's holdout, but I think that's the only map he's good on. So Rexar wins lane really hard, and especially in Hero League or Quick Match or whatever, people don't know how to deal with Rexar. So I mean, the way you deal with him is you gank him because he's really vulnerable. Like he has no mobility at all. So everything is put onto Misha. So if you get onto Rexar himself, he's gonna die pretty quickly. But it's really hard to coordinate that kind of ganking, even at high levels in Hero League. So he just wins his lane really hard. Outside of laning phase, he's not that effective. But I mean, all you need on Raxus Hollow is to win your lane, and then you'll win the game for the most part. So Butcher has a pretty high win rate, but I don't see him being effective. He just You'll go in and you'll get stunned and you won't be able to lifesteal from your target and you just die. I'm sure I'll hear a million people saying, "Oh, I main Butcher, blah 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 blah," but I don't see the viability of him. And same for most of these other heroes. Medivh is actually, I mean, Medivh and Abathur are both really strong, but it's requires a lot of coordination from your team, and Medivh specifically requires very good mechanics on him. Medivh and Abathur are not by any means bad heroes. It's just at least not in like coordinated play, but in solo queue, I wouldn't recommend playing those heroes. Again, you can have viability with any of the heroes on this tier list in any order. You can have Obviously you're gonna have more fun on some heroes than others, but for the most part, I think that the heroes at the bottom are a lot easier to counter than the heroes at the top. The heroes at the top are always good, whereas the heroes at the bottom require the enemy team to mess up for them to get value. You're just split pushing with Gazlo, you're getting turrets and you're getting forts. I'm really glad for you, but most of the time, or not even most of the time, I would say, it's just say that Gazlo can be countered, Azmodan can be countered, right? These split push strategies. The problem is they're just usually not. People really like to deathball and really like to group up, and they're just the kind of split push strategy isn't punished. So that's all I wanted to do for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, let me know. Until next time, guys.